Hi there, folks. Simon here. Welcome to the 2023 Dragon Cup TAC tournament. The Dragon Cup is a brand new tournament that we started this year. It is a single elimination tournament. Anyone was welcome. We have gone through quite a few rounds so far, but now we are at the quarterfinals. Now, this is a match between PlutoTheBrave and Klimace. Klimace, who was part of a couple upsets now. Klimace actually beat Tones, who is currently tournament ranked number 4, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe number 3, something like that. Top 5 player, knocked out by Klimace. So, big upset there. Also, this isn't the first time they've played. These games in the Dragon Cup are one-game matches. However, PlutoTheBrave and Klimace already played one game together. Klimace Klimace was white, PlutoTheBrave was black, but they had a draw. There was a draw, so they have to play again with swapped colors, which is why PlutoTheBrave is in white and Klimace is in black. This is pretty wild. If Klimace is able to beat PlutoTheBrave, that is 2 huge upsets. Huge upsets that Klimace has been a part of, which is just wild. Klimace proving that he is beyond that beginner stage tournament that he played not too long ago. So this is a wild tournament so far. We've seen lots of great things. This is the second quarterfinals match that we are watching here. We did see the first match of theirs. We did miss, however, the other one that was already played, which was Abyss versus me, Simon. I didn't record that because doing the live commentary thing and stuff while playing just makes me play worse. Granted, I still lost to Abyss as expected, but, I figured I'd give myself at least a fighting chance. So, that means, and because of the position in the bracket, PlutoTheBrave and Klimace, whoever wins between them, will go on to face Abyss to try to get into the finals. So that'll be the semifinals match between whoever wins this one and Abyss. Very exciting. The other half of the quarterfinals we haven't gotten to yet, but really excited for that. So this is big. And all these games are played on a 6x6 board with a 15-minute timer on the clock with a 15-second increment. And you also get 35 extra minutes. No, sorry. You also get 15 extra minutes at turn 35. So that's a big one. If it gets to turn 35, you get 15 extra minutes on the clock. Also, 2 komi in these games as well. That means that black gets 2 added to their flat count score if the game does not end in a road. So really excited for that. And I believe we are going to be joined by Abyss in the commentary booth. So really excited about that. That should be a lot of fun. So without any further ado, let's jump right into this quarterfinals game between PlutoTheBrave and Klimace. All right, and let's welcome Abyss in the commentary booth here, going to be commentating along with me.
Hello, hello. Excited to be back in the booth after a while. So hopefully it's a good game.
I think it will be,
And
based on their last game together was pretty fantastic.
oh yeah, that's right. This is the tiebreaker,
It is.
right?
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual. I don't think we've had several tournaments that have had this rule, but I don't think any of them have actually gone to a draw.
Yep, this is the first that I'm aware of. All right, and coming right off the bat, an unorthodox opening from PlutoTheBrave.
Yeah, the old 2-2 or komi or whatever you want to call it. This used to be popular on 5x5 boards in the maybe second wave of opening popularity on 5x5.
Yeah, it was a while ago. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I think the Willem bot doesn't really like it, but in theory, It can't be that bad of a move, right?
Yeah, it feels like a solid opener, but we haven't played it too much in the last few years. We did center control and the Knights opening now. I feel like center control is the most focus on end game, and Knights opening is like mid game sort of thing, early mid game. This one I feel like focuses on an early game sort of opening. Though
It's
I'm
not something I've really thought about, but it does make sense to me what you're describing.
I mean, I would know better than you after our last game together. I mean, wait, hold on, you won that one. Also, the winner of this game does go on to play you in the semifinals.
Well, then let the worst player win. Yeah, this is very old school. The like three diagonals.
Yeah,
I'm a little
very
concerned
interested
for
in this.
I'm concerned for Pluto because after Black played the most obvious move, um, the most standard move, Pluto went in the tank for like a minute.
Yeah,
So
he spent about a
uh,
minute thinking after Klimace played essentially the Knights opening, which was just really bizarre. But this looks like an opening for a capstone at C2.
it certainly does. Although I feel like you might get blocked off. Like if Black gets some sort of formation with D4 and then a capstone on either D5 or E4, you might be a little stranded.
Maybe. I still like it. And I think we
I think
might.
you have to play C4 here, I think.
Yeah, I think C4. I was about to say you gotta play a C4 here so black doesn't get it, and also so you can just keep that capstone relevant and make that connection with those other flats up there.
I don't like Black's little clump of stones in the corner here.
Yeah, it's not super. Like, I get what he's going for because playing at A3 is going to be going for vertical and horizontal at the same time. I but I don't know. And this D1 feels a little risky. It feels very committing to this vertical line when he doesn't have a lot going with that vertical line. Like if he comes over with the capstone, black still has C3 right to cut that off. And now a capstone at C4 where we were saying white should have played.
Luckily for White, Black has played so slowly that maybe you can get away with this. Yeah, this is the problem. You have a clear weak point at D4 and your line is White.
Yep. And you can't really go for a horizontal down on the bottom half of the board because black's got that blocked off already. Now, it looks like white may be thinking of trying to get this vertical going and get that capstone to capture over onto onto D4. But I think black's just going to do that flat first.
You think E4 left or C5 right now?
Yeah, I think. Okay, so white's wanting to cut off black from that vertical, but this is a strong vertical threat from black. White does have the opportunity to throw that capstone over and kind of mess things up a little bit, but still not a bad position here for black. It's looking a little worrisome for white.
Yeah, this is yeah, this is concerning.
Though it is move 10 and no one has lost yet, which is a good sign. We did see a very shocking surprise in the earlier games where Ali was playing against Rabbit Boy 84. Ali, the favorite in that game, Ali lost on turn 10, just completely missed a fairly obvious road. and it was a wild occurrence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to lean into it too much because obviously Ellie's a great player, and if
Yeah,
it happened to me or anybody, I wouldn't want to belabor the point. But it is
for
very
sure.
easy to, if you're getting lost in some calculation, you can just forget about some a tactic like that, and that's part of why I spend like an obnoxious amount of time in the opening, like trying to not do anything too stupid. But it puts me in more time trouble throughout the game. So
Oh, for
there's
sure.
kind of a like a risk reward trade off there.
And I totally get that. I have missed something very obvious and easy a bunch of times, and that happens especially when you're just thinking about, your next 4 or 5 moves, and you think, okay, of course, I'm obviously going to play X when they play Y. Uh, but then after that, I'm going to do these things. And then when the move comes along, when they finally play their move, you play the things you were planning on doing after you already defended against it. That happens to me
Hmm.
a lot as well. Just goes to show that a game of tag is never over until it's actually over. And I typically say don't resign your games because anything can happen. Though I did resign against you yesterday, but that was different circumstance. But yeah,
Yeah,
don't
I was
resign.
a little surprised that the bot like corroborated your resignation. It's like, okay, White is a 99% win rate, and I was like, oh, it really didn't feel like that, but all right, well, at least Simon can feel less bad about having to leave that game.
Oh wow, that was a very quick move. Black plays up at a5, White immediately captured over onto a2, knowing that they were going to make that move. And then now White's capstone coming over left. This is actually setting up for White in a couple ways. They can go now for a vertical and a horizontal, with that capstone being sort of a junction point. Capturing down on a b2 goes for that horizontal. Black's kind of cutting off that horizontal now, playing down at f1, wanting to make sure that horizontal doesn't happen. White can now play up at like b5, for example. Try to go b5, b6, get that vertical going.
I think you should still go the horizontal though
I think
in this case.
it's a lot stronger to go horizontal. I feel a lot more safe.
Yeah, because whenever Black wants, they can boot your capstone to B2, and then they can wall B3. So it's very hard to actually break through on the vertical side.
Yeah, and Black's got that b5 area. Black can go for the horizontal by playing at b5 though, and that's not a bad spot for Black as well.
Yeah, it actually it may be that. So as White, you're kind of hoping that Black plays A6 at some point, so you can go down to B2, but you might actually have to take on B2 first as White, even though you don't want to, because otherwise, um, Black has B2 left at some point, and that gains enough tempo that I think their Black's horizontal becomes faster than yours. So you might have to take on B2 first. 2, 3. Oh, you're actually too slow regardless, aren't you? 1, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. The White is actually slower even if they take on B2, which is probably why Pluto is going in the tank here, because it's not so easy.
It's a tricky
Maybe you do
spot.
have to play B5 then.
Yeah, my gut tells me to go b5 here, with Black trying to cut off the horizontal at the bottom, and also with Black trying to go for this horizontal up at the top, or having that option at least to go for the horizontal up at the top. B5 seems like a solid play to cut that off and also go for your own. It does likely result in Black playing up at b6. So White does go for the b5 placement. I can see a b6 coming up soon, but I think a c6 doesn't work out too poorly there.
No, C6 isn't the move, I don't think.
To respond as
Surely,
white.
surely it's
Oh, and now this is probably where that capstone's going to come down, as you expected. Now let's also take a look at the time. You've talked about it, how Pluto's in the dumps in the time. He's down to 11 minutes. Klimace is still above 15 minutes on the clock, playing on average less than 15 seconds per turn.
well, Pluto took a few moments in the opening,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
otherwise has been pretty fast. It's not this 2A2 plus is interesting.
Yeah, I am surprised about that, but I mean that big stack is protected right now by the capstone.
Kind of. These it is a common formation to have this like guarded weak stack on the corner, protected by a weak capstone. It's often pretty tough to evaluate.
Now, do you think that White's going to play at e6 for the tack threat? Because d6 is a more natural move for a defense play, which I like to make these threats using a defensive move in case someone's not watching for it, that sort of thing. But I don't think that I think that e6 is fine here to make the threat and force capture out of black.
Yeah, I think e6 is reasonable. It's a pretty tactical position, so it's kind of tough to say. Everything's pretty concrete, I guess. So like e6, you're expecting the black capstone to come upward, I guess. And then what indeed? Um, yeah, so maybe you don't want to play e6 because black cap looks kind of improved on d5 compared to on d4.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, I was thinking just c3. It was my first instinct.
Goes for f5, which I feel like is the weaker of the two threats, but is still a threat. But it is there to kind of protect if white needs to capture down onto f4 if black is making a later threat down the line. But this is attack threat from Pluto the Brave. And like we were just
Yeah,
talking
f5 might
about,
be a
it is possible to miss these even at a high level. But Klimace definitely does not miss it. Captures over. And that stack is protected by the capstone, knowing that, he can recapture it at any point. I think this is where Pluto should go with e3, like you were saying before. Kind of go for that horizontal.
yeah. White's never an immediate danger because you always have b5 plus.
Goes for the f4. Now, if white keeps playing down on the f line, black is able to get to that vertical a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think in cases like this, you don't usually want to bait the other person as white, like play f4, f3, whatever, go down the line. It just kind of gets worse before it gets better,
Yeah.
particularly because it doesn't get better.
The wall drops. Wanting to recapture that. Oh, okay, I see what he's done now. So if he captures with the wall, the capstone can't smash because then it would lead to a road for white.
Ah, yes, F4 pins. Yes, okay, that's why he played F4. I was trying to see if you could set up a pin in one move. I sort of missed that F4 accomplishes that. In that case, I retract my previous statement.
Let's see. What else can he do here?
However, the pin can be broken.
Yeah.
With A4 minus, you can suddenly become unpinned. So actually, it's a little technically flimsy. I don't think this is a good wall.
Now white's trying to set up for the attack threat with the wall capture down onto d5.
Like, it's
Not.
almost amazing how ineffective this C3 wall is.
Well, you got that citadel right above it now, which is, yeah, that that wall didn't do a lot there. But I guess black also didn't want a wall at c5 because they wanted to be playing at c5 to go for their vertical and horizontal lines.
Right, but as soon as the C3 wall moves, then it gets filled in behind. And it's like it was never there in the first place.
Yeah.
The only thing it really does is it stops some sort of like insane vertical potential from happening, I guess.
Playing effective
Because
walls is, I feel like, one of the biggest steps for an advanced player to take, to go from sort of beginner to intermediate or even intermediate to advanced. Being able to play effective walls is huge, I feel like, and it's a very tough concept to grasp for a lot of
yeah,
players.
that's definitely true. I wonder if he's gonna defend his own stack with the C5 wall.
He might come back up onto it with his wall.
It does justify the existence of the terrible wall. And I don't think it's a good development for black, but it at least makes sense.
And he doesn't want to move c5 left because then that introduces a bunch of chaos. I mean, maybe he does want to introduce a bunch of chaos because the chaos would be if he moves the c5 stack left onto b5, there's a potential for that capstone to come up and capture it and then have a bunch of white flats underneath. Granted, this would also open up that left vertical and open up that a3 stack to be taken, but we don't see that. We see the self-capture wall.
The problem for black is they just have like, look at their position on the board and
Yeah,
tell me where their road is coming from.
yeah. Right now, it's very disjointed and cut apart. So you've got two separate road, kind of two separate clumps of pieces. You got that far left-hand side of the board, and then you have that middle right-hand side of the board. But they're not connected by anything, and they don't really have a way to connect except by spreading that wall stack all the way down and getting that black flat onto C2. He could be going for a horizontal threat in that direction by spreading that wall stack all the way down to C2. And it looks like by the placement of these flats, white first playing, of course, at E2 to kind of go for that horizontal. Black now can go for a little bit of a horizontal action. But by making that connection over there. But white now making that threat first, forcing a response out of black.
Yeah, I must admit I didn't see that. It's the sort of idea that I guess you would see, being the more proficient road maker. But I don't know if it's relevant as like a sneaky threat, because I don't know if black can get their pieces in formation well enough.
Yeah, getting to that
Maybe.
point is the tough one right now.
I mean, I guess there's E3 minus at some point, and B2 and A2 and B1 are kind of mei, meaning that you can take one or the other at your leisure. So, yeah, maybe there is some potential for a sneaky attack from that wall.
Yeah, first you've got to make that connection, probably with something like an E3 minus, and then you can place it A2. And then it looks like A2 might be trying to capture the stack or something like that. But only do
Yeah,
the E3 minus if you're defending against white making some sort of road threat or something like that.
well, that's if you're trying to make it maximally sneaky, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So here, I could totally see an E3 minus working as a defensive move, but also working to
The
set
problem,
up that later wall spread later. And that wall spread is a tough one to spot for a lot of players. Throwing a wall stack like that and leaving behind a bunch of opponents' flats to get all the way on the other side of the board, that's a big move, and it's one that's really, really easy to miss.
the problem is if you play E3 minus first, there's a decent chance Pluto just walls you.
Looks like he's not going for
Uh,
that throw.
He might not see it either.
Yeah, totally. Totally a possibility. We do see that Pluto's down to 8 minutes, Klimace down to 12. So 4-minute gap between them, which has been pretty consistent for a while. But they don't seem to be in any time trouble right now. They've got another 10 or 9 turns before they get that extra time on the clock, the extra 15 minutes. So I don't think we're going to be seeing too much time pressure here, though, a couple really, really tough positions could change that.
Yeah, it seems unlikely that time will be a big factor in this game.
Yeah. I think when you got your 15 minutes in our game together, you were down below a minute, correct?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah. And then when I got it, I
But
was at 25 minutes, I think.
yeah, you
It
had
put
you
me
had
to
spent
25.
a little bit of time, but not much. Well, like when you know the 35th move is coming, you can budget that way.
For sure.
And you do sometimes get caught with your pants down. Like all of a sudden it gets really tactical on move 30 and you've mismanaged your time, but
Yeah. And you're like, I need to survive, but I also need to not set up my opponent to get a Tinue or something. So, yeah, that's tough when you're down really low on time. But doesn't look like that's going to be a concern for these guys. We see white playing at d4, which, yes, it goes for this horizontal up at the top half of the board, but I don't know. It doesn't seem offensive enough for me.
there are some problems with the black position. Like if you achieve d5 as white, black doesn't really want to move their capstone up because they give up the d3 square. And similarly, they don't really want to move their wall either
Mm-hmm.
because they either give up the stack on c5 and basically forfeit the game, or they give up an empty c5 when white can flat c5. Oh, actually, in that position, it loses because it's pinned hypothetically with a white d5 flat. So it's actually surprisingly, the black defenses are stretched pretty thin.
Yeah, and I think black is trying to make it so white wants to play at d5 or c4, so that black can make a stronger flat cut differential move with that stack. but I'm not sure if that is ready to happen yet. White plays down. Oh, this is clever.
Oh,
It's a vertical and horizontal threat. Black's gotta capture up, I feel like, with E3 onto E4
but
to
you
stop
can't.
both.
You can't.
Oh, you can't. Yeah,
It
that's right. So what can you do to stop both?
uh die.
Is there anything? Is this Tinue?
I don't see how it can. I don't see how it isn't anyway.
Yeah, this is this is Tinue. Wow, that was a good play. I did not see that coming. Did you
Yeah,
see
so
that coming?
Pluto. No, no, of course not.
That was a great move. What was that before that? So he set up by playing at D4 first. And then once the D6 was played, he was able to drop down. That's great Tinue.
Yeah, that's a nice little move. It's particularly easy to miss when it's because you have to have such a strong position in both directions. It's not a tactic that comes up exceedingly often, and particularly it usually happens in positions where you're already doing much better anyway.
Yeah,
So
that was a really good move there. That was a great game too. Now, interestingly, in the first game they played, Klimace was essentially commanding and would have likely won the game if he hadn't offered the draw. But game two turns around. PlutoTheBrave takes it with a Tinue. Great play there at move 28 for the Tinue play, setting it up from 27, I believe. So fantastic game. Great play to both players, and congratulations to PlutoTheBrave. And Abyss, you will be playing PlutoTheBrave in your next match. How do you feel about that?
after seeing this game, I'm slightly less excited about it. But no, uh, no, Pluto's a good player. An opponent actually that I've played a lot of casual games with, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Well, that is all for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is the community hub and where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here through playtac.com or asynchronously through the Discord server itself. You can play just one move a day if you want to. A lot of great people to play with, a lot of great resources out there, so be sure to check that out. And until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.